Good morning, YouTube. My meditation music is still on. Let me go ahead and put on some relaxing music instead.
Do you find yourself wondering, what's next? Where do you want to be? How do you get there? At Trias College, we specialize.
Good morning to my, well, I want to say early risers. It's 8 a.m. It's not that early. But good morning to anyone who's already up and on YouTube. I know for myself, I am not always on at this hour. I've been on at this hour before. I've been on earlier than this, but you know, it's very random. Everything is very random sometimes. Give me a second here. Things with me are oftentimes random because that's how you have to live as a TI. So this morning, it was on my heart to talk about prayer. It's funny how messages kind of come to me because it almost seems like, excuse me, it has a life of its own. It does have a life of its own. The messages that I get, it does absolutely have a life of its own. So let me start the way that I think it's logical to start. Obviously, I was like everybody else, especially being when I was, like a lot younger, like, like an actual child. Prayer wasn't something that was like exciting or something that I was like looking forward to running to do. But I used to notice that people like to do it. They were doing it often. One of these people being, well, actually a lot of people. I grew up with people praying a lot. So whether it was in my neighborhood, whether it was family, whether it was in church, like, I mean, these people want to pray every holiday. They're gathering to pray, like Christmas Eve, when other people are partying, they're praying. They're very serious. They have crusades, they have gatherings to pray. And I used to wonder to myself, like, what is so good about this? Not that there's nothing, it wasn't that I, like, for me as a kid, you're just looking at it as religion. But also part of me is like wondering, like, what is so great about this that they keep doing this, that they're doing this all the time? And it wasn't until I started seeing God work in my life that I started realizing that God is a real presence. And then, so the first part of my life, I feel like, is most people, where it's like you don't see God necessarily in your life, and you also definitely don't feel it. So, and maybe you're not even aware either, like you're not aware of this presence. So you wonder about people, and you kind of like, it's just something that's uncool. And then, so, there was a phase that I went through where it's like, I can see this is God working in my life. I can see this is not me. I can see that, I can see the difference between how things go for me and how things go for a lot of other people. But I kept that relationship to myself, even though that's a very sacred relationship. And I pray all the time, and I ask for help, and I plan my life, and I kind of have that, and that was a couple of years. And then I came to the place where it's like, oh no, God is a little more real than just working in my life. Like, God is listening, God is responding. And it's like how the Bible describes where it's like, what the Bible calls it, something and wonders, where it's like just miracles happen in your life. And so many miracles have happened at that point that it's like it's beyond denying that God exists. It's beyond the point of saying that there is no higher power. It's like beyond that. And it's easy to take it as, well, not easy, but you can say, because there are people who, yesterday I was joking because I was watching this, I saw this meme, and this African mother was making a joke, and she was like, oh, you don't believe in Jesus, you believe in the universe, you do witchcraft, right? And I was laughing, and I put that in my comment section because I don't pray to Jesus. It's not a matter of believing in. I do not pray to Jesus. That is not a God to me. That is not my God, I should say. But it was funny to me about that whole part. And that's why I put it in my comment section. But, there was a point where it was, I didn't necessarily say God, I said the universe. And but it was still very apparent with me that there was an energy working with me, and sometimes working through me. To be honest, I very much recognize that there were times where, isolated incidents where, it's almost like I felt like I was the answer to someone's prayer. Like, I can feel it in whatever way that I felt moved to act or to help someone. It's like I could see that they clearly, very, like, they really needed it. So then I get to the point in my journey where now I'm experiencing spirit as not just like I'm praying to spirit and I'm getting prayers answered, but like they're talking back, like they're real. And it's easier for us to see like a dark energy like that, ghosts or, paranormal active things like that. It's easier to demonic activity, what have you. It's easier to see that in that light than it is to see God in that light. I think for a lot of us, we don't see God move in our life. We don't see God as an active force in our life. And so it's easier to just assume that God doesn't exist in that way, that God doesn't move in that way. God's not who you call upon if you're in trouble, if you're having issues. It's almost like, and there's a ton of people, they choose to work with dark energies because of the impatience with situations. And that's honestly why they do it. No matter how people, it could start off with like the fascination and this and that, but then people depend on dealing with that as a way of life. People may start off being fascinated by being able to perform different things, like different, I call it magic tricks and all that, but I think it eventually boils down to people viewing magic as a way of life, and being able to take power into their own hands. And that's when they really start, the ego starts being inflated. You start thinking that, well, not only can I control my life, but I can control other people's lives, and they don't know, and they don't know better. And I think that is the situation on steroids that has landed us to the place that we are, where gang stalking exists as a way of enslaving other people and as a way of a group of people enriching themselves. It is through people taking things into their own hands and having this control over others. The place that I've gotten with it, as far as why God doesn't necessarily, or we feel like God doesn't move in our favor, or why we might describe God as slow to move or whatever, is honestly because this is how we grow. We want to avoid the pain, we want to avoid the anxieties, we want to avoid the stress of growth that should naturally occur. It's in the adversities that you grow, that you challenge yourself. If things remain the same, then you remain the same. And if you ask God to change your situation, the only thing that changes is the situation. You don't change. Every time there's an issue, someone comes in to rescue you from the issue, then you don't change. You remain the same. And sometimes the place that you need to go to and the person that you need to be is a person who has changed, is a changed person. It's a person who can handle what it is that you are going to have to deal with in life, that you're going to have to come into. So, give me a second because I don't want my coffee to get cold. So, like for me, we can all look at other people and see places that they can improve. And it's like, well, wouldn't it be ideal if such and such were like this, or this person was like that, or that operated like that? It's very easy to say that, but to change yourself, to just sit and wake up and say, I need to change this or that without any adversity pushing you towards it, is a much more difficult task than you would think. We all know that, I feel like. You really need these situations that provoke you sometimes. You really need situations that push you in order for you to realize, like, I gotta make some changes because I'm not helping myself. The situation may be bad, but I'm definitely not helping it. It's always tough to admit. See, that's the thing. That's why ego is an issue. That's why ego is not safe to have. Because ego really blocks you from being self-reflective and really looking at yourself properly and being able to admit where you're wrong or where you need improvement, especially when it's really bad. Sometimes it's like you got to take a step back and realize, like, it's not that you are the problem, but you are not helping. You're definitely not helping. So, and I think that's all of us, to be honest with you, all of us all the time in a lot of situations. So for me, the last couple weeks has been me being on this journey of grooming a lot of behaviors. And not because they are natural in me, but because this is the provocation that I'm being sent. There's been a lot of spiritual and energetic antagonization because, as you know, TIs are supposed to be flustered. They're not supposed to be at peace. They're supposed to be in conflict, etc., etc. I spent 2 years not being in conflict with anyone. I'm very good at not being in conflict with people. I'm very good at looking at someone making up issues. They were blatantly making it up in my, like, blatantly just pulling things out of the thin air. And I could just smile and be like, oh, okay, and move around. I've done this my entire life. This is not even like a tactic at this point. This is like second nature for me. I don't like being quoted in nonsense. But if people are gonna quote me, they're gonna have to make the whole thing up. And that to me is the same as not being quoted, because people trip themselves up with lying. So I just don't like being involved. Oh, okay, no problem. They come to my inbox or in Google review or wherever. It's like I look at it and I move on. But when you're energetically being provoked, it's different. When someone energetically comes into your space to curse you, it's different. And so I've had to recognize, well, why am I upset all of a sudden? Why is this happening? Why is that happening? And not just recognizing it in myself, but recognizing it in my family as well, because it's been a constant issue with my family where it's like, I'm lying, it hasn't been a constant issue, but I've seen it arise here and there where it's like, I have to ask people in the house, like, wait, where did this come from? I don't know, it was just random out of nowhere. Okay, well, then it's a non-issue then, right? And just dealing it with it like that. Anything that shows me in a peaceful light or shows me as who I really am, a person that just wants to help people. I used to ask God in the beginning, like, why am I on here? Why am I talking to people? I'm not healed. I recognize for sure in the beginning coming on here, I'm like, I'm not even done my situation. What am I on here talking to people for? I don't think this is good timing. This is not the timing that I would have chosen for myself at all. I was just like, I would like to handle the bulk of the issues that I have going on first. Because going through gang stalking, you're going to be incredibly upset. It's like I've had to almost like hold my breath for 2 years while people have provoked me in every way possible to try to get me to a place where they have ammunition to do something to me, to provoke me to fights and to provoke me to disagreements and to provoke me to always have issues with people. And I've sideswiped all of that. And then now I get here on the internet and here's the trolls and here's the this and here's the that. And it's like, wait, this is a lot. But in these situations, this is where you grow. In the situations where you are pushed or you have to push yourself beyond what you think is reasonable, even just talking about that, I still think it's unreasonable. Part of that was for my safety though as well. Part of that was to walk a path that would lead to untying me from this situation. So I still, even, and that's the thing about doing that hard work, I recognize that I had to speak out because it wouldn't stop. But at the same time, it's like for me, I like to have control. And, you know, had I been in control of the situation, I would not have wanted to come at that time. I would have wanted to have my breather, exhale, get my anger out, get my tears out, get myself to a good situation, and then talk about it. In talking about it, so much stuff came up. It's like reliving a nightmare. Just every time you talk about something, you're reliving that experience. Because the experience is in the energy of it, it's in the emotions of it. And reliving that situation, I'm sitting here realizing like how bad it's been, the kind of things that I've put up with without fighting, without pushing back, without saying anything to anyone. I'm also realizing how long they've been doing this to me. No wonder, you know, I wasn't thriving in this city in the way that I should. No wonder I was never respected. There's always been something. And obviously it's going to upset a person. And one of my biggest lessons was how to sit with anger and not react to it. How to sit with feelings of injustice and not lash out. How to control my reactions. Everything always boils down to self-control. And one of the lessons that I've learned is that it doesn't matter. This is not even about other people, it's about myself. It doesn't matter if there's justifiable cause. Doesn't matter if it's justified. What was done with you, what was done to you was wrong. How you react is how you're responding to the situation. And when you respond in anger, you're taking away control from yourself to be able to navigate the situation responsibly, to see the full picture. So this has been one of my lessons. And when you're in gang stalking, all the lessons are amplified. All the lessons seem to be 10 times harder than in regular situations, because now there is a force behind it that you can see, a hidden hand that is stoking the fire, creating the issues, and looking for a particular reaction. They need it to fit a narrative. I remember I saw this constant struggle with other people that were speaking up, with controlling their anger, controlling their mouth. And because I was also one who was going through it, I never judged, because I was like, oh my God, you're even calm. There were times where it was so bad that I was actually praying for people. Like, I was like going to God, like, come on now, come on now. It's kind of bad. If I can see it, I know you see it. It's kind of torturous. No, are we gonna help this person, or what's gonna happen here? This looks kind of bad. But I come into my own. I have to come on here and talk to people, and same kind of nonsense. You gotta master it. You gotta jump over this hurdle. And also, in me coming on here, I could also see why it's important not to do it, because you gotta be careful not to slip into losing your self-control, because you give people ammunition and they're looking for ammunition. You're an innocent person, you're not bugging anybody, but if we go and make a problem with you, now we can pretend to be the victim and say that you did this and you did that. People try to provoke me all the time, all the time. You see, the one thing that I do appreciate about myself is that I get to the point when I learn a lesson, I really learn it, especially when it's like, well, all lessons are lessons that you have to be intentional about learning, right? But like, if it's something that I've recognized as a problem and it's something that I've gone out of my way to change a behavior about myself, it's a lesson learned. It's very much like in you now. So one thing that I've come to is, in the beginning of this, I thought, no, I gotta change because I let so much things slide, etc., blah, blah, blah. And now I've come back to the point where, you know what? Everything I was doing was correct. Avoiding conflict with people, avoiding a lot of nonsense. It was all correct. It was all correct. And I continue to practice those behaviors. I'm one who deletes messages without opening it. I don't want to talk. I don't care what happened. Honestly, I don't care what the issue is. No response is the best response. That's my thing. There is no justifiable response. No response is the best response. Don't be quoted. Don't be screenshot. Don't nothing. Don't read. I delete without reading, without responding, because I don't want to be involved. And that's my best advice to TIs. It's for your peace of mind, and it's for people not having any justifiable reason, and it is self-preservation to avoid conflict. That is my best advice, because that is what I did. I went so far as having people try to come to my store to fight me, being ushered off by security, and then seeing security race to get them out of my store again after they were walked away, like that, determined to fight. So it's like, people have tried to make it physical, and people will make it physical. They'll make excuses. This was for someone who got paid more than we agreed to, just so that I could calm the issue down, didn't want to accept the payment, had the payment, didn't want to accept it, and accepted it right after they were banned from the mall. Accepted the payment immediately. And at that point, I was kind of like, a pair with it. And I was like, I'm going to sue you. It's out of control. And that is how bad it is when they want a reason. People will twist your words, they'll make things up, they'll doctor things, they will lie, whatever it takes. I've seen it myself. I've been in my store and seen people say that we said things that were never said. Never. I've had to confront fake customers and been like, why would you say that? I was just in there with you. Nobody said that to you. Just stopping people in the hallway every single day, all day long in our mall, talking about us, saying that I've sold drugs, saying that I do this, calling me a mob wife, all of this kind of stuff. Like it's been a lot. It's been enough to provoke a person. It's been more than enough. The first month of it is enough to provoke a person. The best advice always remains to avoid conflict at all costs, because it doesn't help when your hands are in it too. And I am grateful that I had my time to speak my piece. I meant every word. I meant every word. And I think that, and I pray that when this comes out, the true character of the people involved and all their dirty secrets come out. And I know it will. I know it will. This is how it always works. We look at history. We look at, not just history, but we look at how things unfold in our lives all the time. And people are always unmasked. They get away with it for a long time. 20, 30, 40 years, an entire career, they get away with things. But when that mask falls off, they are known as pedophiles, they are known as predators. There are whole movements that rise up against them. Multiple witnesses, multiple people saying the same things, videos that are released. No one hides forever. It's important how you live your life. And sometimes you gotta only worry about yourself. No one hides forever. And I think when the things that people are trying to hide involve things like being a pedophile, involve things like being a sexual deviant, involve things like the kind of things that people are trying to hide, that they lash out even more. And sometimes you have to understand it's not even personal. This has evolved from something that has been just about getting rid of you to now energies are trying to hide their secrets and remain hidden and possibly in denial about how far out in the open they are, really. So let me relate this back to so yesterday in my community section I posted a video, which I rarely try to post these kind of things. I think this was important to post because this girl's been talking about being targeted for a long time, and she has a big platform. And me being targeted, I am quicker to believe someone who's targeted. So this girl, they've been doing things to her for a long time, and she's constantly talked about it. And then it got to the point I was like, they're gonna make an example of her, and I can see that this is what's happening. And they took away her kids, and that's really where she spiraled, as would be like normal for anyone. Taking away children in North America is a very diabolical practice. It is very diabolical because it's like there is a bond between a mother and her children that is a very, like, I think that's a sacred bond, and it's just very important. Even it's important for both parties. So imagine as a little kid you get taken from your family, and I don't know this girl personally, but I think for most of us watching her, I think we probably all share the same opinion that this girl is probably not a bad mother. Her kids have a safe place to stay and they look well provided for. And this is a place in North America where people set up these imaginary standards that back in their home country they do not live up to, and they do it. And it's like, I know for me in my country that there's been a lot of protests about, it's always, you know, the black kids that get taken away in high numbers because these are the people that usually get targeted more. Taking people's kids away is definitely a symptom of being targeted for sure. Because one of the girls that was a gang stalker was telling me that she wanted to go into being a social worker, and they put people in these positions for this particular reason so that they can use them later on when they're ready to turn on people. So this is how they build people. It's like they almost want to educate people to go and be in these positions, the people that they own. So your kids being expelled from school, your kids having issues at school, that's all targeting. That's all targeting. Those are all symptoms of being targeted. So after they took her kids away, it's like her platform kind of fell. Things kind of fell apart because it was more than just her telling these messages at this point. And then yesterday was the first time, this happened 3 days ago, but was the first time I saw the video of they brought SWAT to break down this girl's door. I've never seen more excessive force. Now, I don't know what she was accused of or whatever, but I don't know, it's crazy. I think that's crazy. That's excessive force. Like, you literally can come to someone's door, knock on the door, and ask them to come to the door. They brought SWAT to get this girl out of the house. This is classic, like, why you need to watch the way you react to these things, and why you need to make sure that you don't give people a reason. Now, this is something honestly that I grew up like this. These are some of the core lessons that I appreciate my childhood for. And when you have people who actually care, you know, like good parents, you know, they'll tell you things like, you know, you have to be accountable for your behavior. Growing up West Indians are always going to ask you, like, how did you contribute to a situation, right or wrong? They're always going to ask you, what did you do to participate in this as well? Especially if it's something where you come home and you have a conflict at school, let's say, and you're saying the teacher said this and they did this and they graded me this way. They're like, okay, well, how did you behave? Because they want to know up front, because they know they're going to go there and hear something as well. And growing up, I used to be so upset about it because I'm like, how comes they don't take my side? But as an adult, you very quickly realize, like, you don't want to give people something to say. You do not want to give people something to say. For me in my city, it is far beyond people not believing me, people not knowing me, people thinking I'm crazy. Oh my God, the entire city's involved. The entire city is either involved or very much aware. It's like if there are 6 degrees of separation, out of every 6 degrees, 3 degrees have been involved in some way, like personally seen something, personally heard something. Everywhere I go, people look at me like they recognize me. Everywhere I go, it's like they're either extra nice or they avoid me. A lot of it is not really like conflict. The whole environment of this thing has shifted completely from conflict to literally people not wanting to be involved. And you can see where people just don't want to be involved. They just don't want to deal with it at all. And you can see that people are just bullied into it for the few that remain that have to participate in this. For me, it's like, as bad as it was for me to lose my cool, I don't think there's a single person that is surprised from my city. I don't think there's a single person surprised. I think people know. I've had to put a post on my social media and like pin it up and leave it there because of the amount of slander and sabotage that's happened in that business. And I don't know if everybody's situation is like this, where their situation is very like it's that obvious to the public. I think with a lot of people, they're in a situation where people have hid their hand, but in my situation, they're not hiding their hand. It's hatred. They're not hiding their hand. It's very blatant. It's not blatant. They're doing it in the open. They did it in the open. They involved everybody. Every location I went to, it was to the point that people were just avoiding it. It wasn't like people were like, "What are you talking about? You're crazy." People were like wishing me luck. People know so bad. They know so bad. They know so bad. It's a public thing. It's like a public execution in my city that these people have attempted on me. Public. There is no mincing words. There's no comments of "you're crazy." There's no, "oh, this is not happening." I think there's deep disgust in what's happened. I think it has nothing to do at this point with who it's happening to. There's this thing of changing the narrative about me, like, "oh, this person's this and this person's that." I think it's beyond just me now. I don't think it has to do with who it is or why. I think people are just at a point with it where they're like, this is disgusting. I think that's why no one wants to work with this energy anymore. And on here I talk about it as one person. There's a group. There's a group. They've all been unmasked because it hasn't been hard to connect. Even from the very beginning, it's been very obvious. It's gone so far overboard to come and harass the online community. It's so far gone. So this is what I mean by, sometimes you just gotta let it play out. This is not how I would have wanted things to go. This is not how the life that I saw for myself. I was minding my business. I think like most TIs, you're minding your business. You think you're living a private life. You think you're not bothering anyone. You're constantly avoiding conflict. And then all of this happens, and all you think is like, wait a minute, whoa. What have I done to anyone? What reason has there been for me to be involved in anything like this? And it's not just that you know you're an innocent person. People know you're an innocent person. People know that, what kind of person you are. They know that the person that they see does not match whatever it is that they're told. That's why I tell TIs, I'm like, don't bother with like trying to prove your innocence to people. And definitely don't bother with proving it, especially on the onset. All of that is just being, it's like people are pushing you to do that so that you can look more crazy, because they're not going to see what you see. Let the situation play out. Let the situation play out. And you know what? The conclusion that I've come to is, this is on your journey because this is a part of the path. It's not a mistake. It's not a deviation from, it's a deviation from your idea of where you were supposed to be going to and what was supposed to be happening to you. But this is on the path. This is something you have to navigate. This is a part of your future. This is a critical part of your future. And that's why God tells you to have strength and go through it. And You know, when I prayed, that's God was like, just have strength, be strong, because you're gonna go through this. You gotta pray through it. Prayer, you know, for me, prayer got good when I realized, like, wait a minute, they actually hear me. I'm not just praying into the sky. And they care incredibly. And you feel that. And oftentimes, sometimes it's like in the entire situation, I'm the one taking it. I'm the one like taking it the best. It's like I'm taking it easiest of all the energy here. And I'm the one going through it. Not because I don't necessarily recognize what I'm going through. I 100% recognize the problem. It's just my personality that don't I don't throw myself into negative experiences as deeply as maybe people want me to. So oftentimes, sometimes it comes out like I don't care, because sometimes I'm just not feeling anything, to be honest with you. I'm not throwing myself into an experience that I do not like. It's not like an experience I actually enjoy. It's not like people that I know. It's not family and friends. These are strangers. This is a strange thing. A lot of times these are things that are happening that I don't quite understand, like what the end goal is of doing this. Knowing that there is an end goal, that there is something that they want to accomplish, but just not sure like why. So I'm not going to thrust myself into this experience. I'm going to just more so be an observer, even though it's targeted at me. I think that's more so a personality trait than anything else. So for me, it's like provoking someone like me, I'm sure is more difficult, more frustrating, because I tend to look down on people that do stuff like this. It's not just, oh my god, this is frustrating. It's like one of the easiest ways to make me not respect something. If I don't respect something, it's easier to ignore it. It's easier to ignore it because it's, to me, I just see it as like, you know, I think I constantly see it as like, I can't believe this is how someone's using energy. I can't believe this is how someone's using focus. I can't believe this is how someone's using attention. Because I realize that with myself personally, where I put the attention is what grows, is what happens. And I've been blatantly putting my attention into other things that have been growing and evolving. So I think when it really boils down to it, yesterday, you know, for the last couple of days, I've talked about different things. One of the first things, well, in the last couple of days, I've been talking about lately moving on from this, because you got to walk away from it energetically. You cannot remain. That should go without saying, but I know that people have not been focusing on this, and it's because it's easier said than done. It's because of the level of the way they've involved themselves in your life, and the way that they've really harvested your reactions, and the way that they've been triggering you, and the way that they've been violating you in every way. So you've gotten into a pattern of responding, reacting like I was in. And you have to break that habit. And when you've gotten to the point of pulling your energy, then it desperately clings at your, you know, the hem of your pants. Excuse me, for more attention, for more reaction. So the childish behavior amplifies. And you really have to step over a lot of nonsense. So when you get yourself to a point finally that you're feeling energetically like, okay, this might still be, but I'm not reacting to it, I'm not playing into it, I'm moving on. You're seeing more childish things, because at this point, like for me, I've blocked off access to myself. I don't want my phone to ring. I don't want to talk to anyone. A lot of nonsense comes on my phone, especially at critical times. That's the time where you see nonsense come. Um, and, I'm focusing on myself. No one should have involvement in with me. No one should say they're talking to me. I haven't talked to people in months directly. I come online. And this is where the it gets even more ridiculous, because there's this fight to keep you stuck in a cycle that you've clearly evolved from. So I just see it as like the final remnants, the final lessons that need to be learned. Sorry, the last few things that need to be kind of tied together neatly. For myself personally, I've said it time and time again. I'm done with this cycle. Like, whatever provocation happens, it's like I know it still persists because God is allowing it, because it doesn't have to persist. And this is really what it boils down to, and this is how I have to take it, is that, and this is how I hope other people take it as well, and how you have to look at it. You can say resentfully, there's a bit of resentment in me when I say God is allowing it, of course, because I don't want to deal with this crap anymore. It's tiring. Of course there's resentment left in it. There's resentment left in there's resentment with all our lessons. Even as a parent, when I put my kids through things as well, I know that they resent that I put them through that, but I know that it's for the greatest good, and I know that it's for their evolution. I had a story I was talking about where I was like, I used to make my daughter stand at the door and greet customers as they came in. And I know that they didn't like that, but that burst them into amazing salespeople and people that can really talk to people and like out of their shell. And it's the same way. Like, my daughter used to cry. One of my kids used to cry a lot. Like, you would think you were like abusing her the way, like, all she had to do was stand there and say good afternoon, hi, good morning. And she would cry about that. She'd be so upset about it. Um, it's the same way we feel having to go through things. It's like, this is ridiculous. Everybody wants, well, not everybody wants peace, but healthy human beings want peace in their life. They don't want conflict. The people that are targeted want peace in their life. They don't, some people feel amplified by chaos. They feel like, what's the word I'll use? Energized by chaos, by fighting, by back and forths. They like it. Other people are completely like turned off by that kind of behavior. And people who are used to that behavior don't understand why they get ghosted when they start behaving like that, but they can't help it. They thrive in this kind of thing. They do it all the time. They gossip, slander, what they don't even see an issue with it because they do it all the time. That's their way of living. So somebody like myself going through this, who's used to peace all the time, is so disgusted. I cannot believe it. Like, people live like this. People have made this a business. How do they even stand this stress all the time? So it's a lesson that I have to learn. Sometimes I'm not even sure what the lesson is. I know controlling my reactions is definitely one that I've been forced to learn, even though it's something I felt like I already knew how to do. And I had to say to God one day, I was like, listen, I don't know what is coming for me in the future, but the fact that I have to learn on an energy like this is crazy to me, because this has to be the most needy, clingy, annoying, frustrating, demonic entity I have ever encountered in my life. It is even more desirable to deal with I don't know, an energy that, this is so draining every day. It's so draining. It's so draining. It gives me an incredible sympathy for people who've been victim of this energy. It gives me an incredible sympathy for people who've lived years like this, having to constantly deal with childishness, never having peace, not being able to have a moment of joy, having to hide a smile because you got to be miserable because the chaos around you is miserable. It gives me a lot more sympathy. So it's been easy to recognize why I also look at like the people gang stalking with so much sympathy as well. It's like, I don't know for other cities, but in my city, it's like, oh my God, you need like an award. You need to be on a podium and you need to be crowned for having lived this way. And there's so many of them that live this way. People that are not energized or enthusiastic about gang stalking at all. People don't want to deal with this at all. They're just stuck. All of them. All of them. And the reason that they're stuck, whether they know it or not, is because they have no spiritual practice. They have no faith. They have no God. They have no ancestors. They have no help. That's why you're stuck. I also have to learn to watch people, whatever they're going through, and not have some sort of an emotional reaction to it every single time, because I'm going to see a lot. And people, well-meaning, good people, just refuse certain things. Whether or not you give them the answer to it or not, they refuse it. So there are people that I see suffer with things that I could have easily been suffering from, and the remedy is very, very easy. I mean, extremely easy. And they refuse that information, but it's their God-given right to refuse information. You can bring a horse to water, but you can't force it to drink. You can only tell people what to do. And I can't even judge people that don't want to pray, that don't want to find God. Because the way in which I'm saying that you have to approach a religious practice, or not a religious, sorry, a spiritual practice, is not in a religious way. So I already know if people are born into a religion, they don't want to hear about what I have to say, especially if it sounds off the cuff, like off the wall. I know even for myself, if I didn't experience it, I probably wouldn't be very eager to like hop into this type of spiritual practice, because I would be like, oh my God, what is this? Like, is this okay? Does this sound scary? I wouldn't consider myself either the type of person who would normally believe in this stuff, but I just know this to be the truth. I don't think it's the only truth, but I know it to be a truth, my truth, and a truth that has saved me. So for me, I get it. I get when people very much cling to whatever they talk about in the church, to cling to the New Testament of the Bible, to cling to the idea of Jesus as a rescuer, to think that they're going to be rescued this way, to think that there's something that's going to be saving them out of this situation. So I get it. I totally get it. The answers are much more simple than we think. It's not necessarily I get it. I get it as far as people go with in the beginning, I wasn't quite sure either. I wasn't 100% sure on how to kind of walk this spiritual path, like what is meant for me, what's not meant for me. It does help knowing that you are not Christian, your beliefs are not Christian, so there's a good place to start. But in the very beginning of the spiritual walk, you're kind of like wondering, like, yeah, like, am I doing the right things? Am I taking the right path? Am I going in the right direction? You're wondering that as well. Is what I'm doing on the up and up? And you need constant confirmation and reconfirmation, etc. But then you get to a point where you become comfortable with it and you start realizing, like, no, what I'm doing is right. But you still get nervous with other people because, like, this is your experience. Your experience has been it's like it's what you know. Being a TI, when you're targeted and this is your experience, this is what you know. Other people don't know internally what you're going through, but you know for a fact that this is what you're going through. You're very convinced. Like, TIs are never unsure that they're being targeted. They know what's going on. So it's like that. It feels very much like that with the spiritual walk. It's that I know, because it's been my experience, but I know for others, if they haven't had the same experience, they're going to be doubtful. They're going to question. They're going to be worrying, like, am I going down the right path? Is this witchcraft? Is this devil worship? Like, what is this? And that's completely normal to ask yourself. It's completely normal to ask yourself, especially when you've been spiritually trained in one way. And spiritually, you know things to be one way. And even though the things that you know and accept spiritually, they may be just as bizarre as what I'm talking about, but so many people believe it, and it's so widely accepted that it's okay. Somebody dying on the cross and rising again, I mean, it's bizarre because we don't know anybody that this has happened to. This is not a regular occurrence, but it's a widely accepted belief. And so that makes it okay. If the Bible talks about a Holy Ghost, and the scriptures talk about a Holy Spirit or a Holy Ghost that was with everybody, or with apostles, or with holy men, you only talk about men in there, then that is okay as well, because it's in the Bible, and again, it's widely accepted. But if you think about, like, in reality, like, there really is a Holy Ghost, like, really is a Holy Ghost that is present with you, this is more difficult for people to accept, because it's kind of like saying, well, we could talk about Santa and the Easter Bunny, but if you said that Santa really came down your chimney, people would kind of look at you like, I don't know. I don't even the well-meaning people, very well-meaning people, would be like, are you sure? Do you have a picture? Do you have a video? Are you sure? Are you okay? It's like that when it comes to religion, and I can see it. I can see that it's like that people are, it's like you can accept religion in theory, but accepting it in reality is a totally different thing. You can accept religion as far as something to comfort you, but when it comes to really being in trials, we turn to ourselves. Like, we really turn to, like, okay, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, I gotta get this done, I gotta get that done. And really, what I'm saying to people is, you can do both. You gotta do both to the same degree. Not one or the other, not just praying and not doing anything physically, or not just doing things physically and not praying. You gotta do both. And I'm not encouraging anybody to take fate into their own hands, which is what I call, well, which what left hand spirituality is, where people go to entities to move, and the entities move in real time. They move in real time. I don't recommend that. This is not my personal belief. I believe in, when I say leave things to God, I don't mean like just like not pray about it and just ignore issues and be like, oh, God will take care of it. No, you got to actually ask Spirit for what you want. But Spirit decides what to answer, when to answer, how to answer. Sometimes prayers are answered years later, years later. Sometimes you think a prayer wasn't answered at all and it happens years later, because God knows how things are supposed to unfold in your life. Sometimes some prayers are not answered at all. So you can ask all you want, but this is not your path, and this is not the way that it's supposed to go. And this is the truth. And it doesn't matter how close to God you are. God, it's like a parent. A parent's not gonna do anything that's not in your best interest. My kids can ask me to never brush their teeth ever again, let's say. That's not in their best interest. It doesn't matter how close they are to me or how much I want to please them. It's not in their best interest, because that's what love is about. It's about like what's in your best interest. So, but you have to still have that relationship where you're asking. You have to still go into the Spirit. And believe it or not, when you're in a situation where you are being persecuted demonically, you have to ask constantly for this situation to be handled. I talk about very strategic prayers, which is not something that, once you start realizing that prayer is very real, that the energies around you are very real, both good and bad, not just good energies, but bad energies are very real. They're very persistent, that they can plague your life, that you got to be very spiritually dedicated. Once you start realizing how, what it takes to get these energies off of you and what they come in to do, and you start being very dedicated on your spiritual path, you have to realize, it's only natural to realize that prayers need to be strategic, because the prayers are working, and you know the prayers are working. They know the prayers are working. The prayers are working. And it takes for sometimes you to come to this point to see that your prayers work in real time, the way black magic works in real time. That God moves in real time, the way dark entities move in real time. And then there's always been this thing of like, oh, God is slow to act and all of this. No. 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 The thing is sometimes that we want all our prayers to be answered right away. That's not in your best interest. Just the same way with black magic, everything being answered in real time is not in your best interest. It is not in your best interest for the things that people try to make happen to actually be attempted. It's not in anybody's best interest that that happen. But this is the reality of what gang stalking is. People are preying down on you. And you can call it energy work, you can call it weapons of the military's doing it, the government is doing it. That's the propaganda that everybody says. But the odd thing about it is when you pray about it, it gets relieved. No matter what the issue is, no matter what it is, health concerns, financial concerns, concerns with children, needing information, whatever it is, God comes through every single time. So, with my situation, I always look at it like, I just pray about it. I just pray about it, and I do what I can do about it. and I try to not give it the kind of attention that it wants out of me, because it's not worth it, to be honest, to give a lot of attention to things that you should be able to avoid. um However, you got to pray about it. You got to pray. And when I say pray, I always try to simplify it and just tell people, like, listen, you just go in the spirit and you talk to spirit. You go into the spirit and you talk to the Holy Spirit, and that's it. You talk to God. I've talked about it so many times that you start with the ancestors. You start with your ancestors. This is spirituality. It's not religion. It's spirituality. It's the actual reality of the spiritual world. It's the reality of it. The reality of it is that spirits exist. This is not like the biblical, well, even in the Bible, they're very clear. I don't know where people have gotten this attitude of approaching it as if it's not real. It is a very clear. It's very clear. I don't know why people have an issue with, some people anyway, with connecting with their ancestors. Not sure why. But this is something that you gotta do. It's not like, to me, I don't, because going into the spirit by yourself with your knowledge on your own and trying to reach out to energies, I just don't think is a safe thing. I don't think it's a good idea, because the spirit realm is a very, very tricky place. Look at how it is being on earth. How many illusions have been casted as soon as you were gang stalked and you woke up and you opened your eyes. Look at all the illusions that you realized were around you the entire time. So if it's like that on earth, what do you think it's like in the spirit? Like, when people come here, they forget things, they lose memories, etc. So what do you think it's like in the spirit? How insane is it in the spirit? This is how you have to think of it. This is why you don't want to be in the spirit on your own. This is why you want to have guidance through that. And I know for myself, the reason I needed guidance was to open me up to a path that I had to walk either way. So you got to seek out people that have come before you. You have to seek out ancestors. You got to seek out help. You have to seek out spiritual help. It's your ancestors that walk with you. They open the door for you. And even when it comes to like initiations into like with orishas and stuff like that, it's the same thing. They always talk about like, you got to start with your ancestors. It is the same thing. You got to start with your ancestors, because they build relationships. They let you know what relationships are okay, and they keep energies away from you that shouldn't be around you, that shouldn't be in your orbit, that shouldn't be close to you. So starting without them is a mistake, and I've heard it described as you're gonna fall on your face. And I think it could be worse than that. I think it's falling on your face. It's like, at least you can pick yourself up. I think it's much worse than that. I think that you can find yourself possessed and being kept away from energies that are there to help, like your ancestors and that sort of thing. I think people who go for spiritual help and whatnot, if you're ever not guided to connect with your ancestors, I feel like that's a marker of like a good teacher, a good spiritual teacher. If they tell you to connect with your ancestors, I think that's a huge marker. There are some people that just want to introduce you to entities immediately, and that's not good. That's not good. I think that spirituality and religion, they should intersect, because I think that when done correctly, religion could be fine, but they keep barricading people from information that they actually need to help themselves. To put it simply, if you know your way around spiritually, you're not even scared of things like spell work and all of that, because like for me, that's the least of all of the problems that I have, is spell work, is people coming into my space and coming into my energy and trying to sabotage things spiritually and whatever. It's the least of the problems. Why? Because you learn how to deal with it. You learn how to clean it. You learn how to accept that it's there. So let's say there was no spell work happening, I would come to everybody more in a religious sense, like, oh, God is here and God is real and whatever. But when you add in that part of the spell work that's happening, which people don't want to recognize as spell work, but very much is, it's propaganda when people tell you it's energy work or the government's doing it, or that's propaganda. This is 100% spell work. It's 100% spell work, witchcraft, voodoo, whatever you want to call it. It's 100% that. 100%. I'm telling you, you're being spiritually persecuted. I look at some of these videos from these TIs and what they call voice to skull and all of that. You're just being persecuted. You're being spiritually persecuted because they know you have the gift of clairvoyance. They know you can, is it clairaudience? They know you can hear them. So they're going to harass you, and you have no spiritual protection. You're out in the rain with no coat, no umbrella, no boots, heck, no shirt, just out there open to the elements. And then they're keeping the rain going. And when you truly get into spirituality and you understand that dark entities can give people, it's like they give you knowledge, they give you gifts, they give you information, they give you understanding of things in the same, making it seem in the same way that God would. But they don't give you the full picture. They'll say, no, you can do that, and this can happen, you can do that and that can happen, you can do that and that can happen. But they don't tell you the consequences of these things. And you find yourself out there a victim just like everyone else. You've binded yourself up in a situation and you're out in the rain again, just like your victims. You're out in the rain, no boots, no umbrella, no raincoat, nothing. And these energies don't save anyone. They don't come in to rescue. These are not relationships that are, people worship demons with that loyalties. I see it. People worship these energies with that same conviction as if this is God, but this is not God. They worship these energies with the same passion. Oh, they give us wealth and they give us this, and it doesn't come with persecution. It's not like this and whatever. But man, you're giving up a lot to be able to and you're not enjoying it. You might get it, but you're not enjoying it. I think that might be something people might have to ask. Am I gonna enjoy it? Yeah, I might get money out of this, but am I gonna enjoy it? I think that's something people do not ask. They do not, what's the word? Nobody really inquires of that part from what I can see. They just kind of move forward with these relationships. The spiritual relationships, they have to start. The spiritual practices, they have to start. After the part where you determine that you want to leave. After the part where you have to groom yourself. You have to groom yourself to be ready to leave. That video that I posted in my community section is why you have to groom yourself to leave. Very troubling that this is how far they would take it. Very troubling. After you've already groomed yourself, that you're at that point where you're like, no matter what I see, no matter how bad it gets, I'm ready to get out of here. Once you get to that part of your journey, you have to develop a prayer lifestyle and a ritual with prayer. a ritualistic prayer practice that has formal times of prayer, but is really about praying round the clock. It's about staying in the spirit, not even coming to the spirit when you need it, but staying in the spirit. So much so that if you prayed a little bit late one day, or you skipped it for whatever reason, that you would feel like a fish out of water. Like, it has to be such a lifestyle. Persistent prayer, so that you can get guidance that you need, so that you can get intuitive nudges, so that you can receive the love, the patience, the coaching, the whatever whatever it is that you need, that you can receive it in the spirit. Prayer that doesn't stop. Spiritual practice that doesn't quit. Your first instinct is always to pray. Pray. I talk a lot about meditation to calm you down, but prayer. Prayer is when you go in the spirit and you go seek the spirits out. You go talk to them. You let them know what's going on. You ask them for what you need. You ask them for faith. You connect. A prayer lifestyle breaks up things that are being built against you. So if in your waking hours today, in the bulk of your day, there was something being started against you in the spirit, as soon as you get into prayer in the evening, that gets broken up. And then you get calm in your spirit again, so that you go to sleep in a good disposition, and by the time you wake up tomorrow, you're back on track. So that things do not get a chance ever to grow in your life. You may have a bad day. You may have things that don't work out during the day, but the prayer breaks it up. The prayer makes sure that nothing proliferates. The prayer binds your enemies in the spirit, binds those things that come to curse you, against you, puts blockages in their way to get to you, gives you the means to protect yourself. It pulls your ancestors close. For me, I advocate having altars in your home. Spiritual people have the altars in their home. Religious people have the altars in their church or their religious building. I advocate having it in your house, having your own personal spiritual practice, and letting this be a personal spiritual walk. However, I don't want, and I want people to look at it like that, just simply like that. Nothing beyond it, nothing more complex than that. Give me a second here. Hey, buddy, stop. Stop. For the sake of attracting people to my messages, or for the sake of appeasing people, I cannot pretend like it has not been prayer that has gotten me to where I am today. And it is so true that people are willing to tear down every spiritual or tarot reader on this entire internet. Our people are willing to keep my phone hacked in the middle of an investigation that is knee deep, balls deep, are willing to block my channel, harass, do anything, because this is the message that people don't want to get out more than anything. More than anything, it's this message. It's not necessarily, the cell phone thing, but all of that doesn't matter if you're not praying. All of that doesn't matter. A witch's worst nightmare is someone who prays very seriously, very consistently, and who's very genuine about that relationship, like it's not for show. Because this is that's why it's personal. That's why it's just for you. It's not about showing people that you're pious. It's not about showing people that you're religious. It's not about any of that. That's why a lot of times people who are truly spiritual, they may swear, they may do this, they may do that, but God knows their heart. They connect with God. This is one of those things that I've learned not to look at in any particular way. A lot of the people that God has called are people who you would not expect. That's between, that relationship is between them and God. I don't, but it's not people you would expect. Put it that way. If it's on their path, if it's their calling, if they are to be groomed to do something for God, then God knows why. But for me, I stopped looking at, oh, well, how do they behave and do they have a perfect image and whatever, because that's all lies. People pretend with that a lot. They pretend to be of God. They pretend to be holy. They pretend to be all of these things. And behind closed doors, they do witchcraft. Behind closed doors, yeah, they believe in a God, but what they are calling God is Baal. What they are calling God is Jezebel. What they are calling God is dirty energies. Extremely dirty energies. Give me a second. Whenever this happens, whenever my cat starts screaming like this, it's because there are dirty energies in my home that refuse to leave, always causing interruption. I recommend, I light incense sticks. I recommend that as well. Smoke at your house always. You don't always need to burn sage. It's okay, Bubbles. It's okay. Come on, Knox. Come. Knox, come. Yes, as I was saying. I'm talking to TIs and I'm talking to people who are stuck in gang stalking. The beginning of this journey, the beginning of getting out of here is praying. There's just no way around that. There's no way around that. I've said it from day one. You gotta pray. You gotta pray consistently. You gotta pray every day. You gotta have a prayer routine. You gotta have, I mean, in the morning and in the night is obvious, but when you're going through the hardest part of gang stalking, you gotta pray around the clock. You gotta pray at all times. You can't skip prayers. Well, you won't be able to. They're gonna be on you no matter what. But prayer works because what they're doing is praying. You may not recognize it as prayer, but what they are doing is praying. They are praying on your downfall, but they're praying all the same. Praying to something dark, but they're praying all the same. They are praying. So you gotta pray. And they're leading people astray. There are people who, it's like slowly but surely, they're inching people into the wrong direction. I saw a reader literally tell people, read about Jezebel as like a divine feminine or a dark feminine figure. Divine feminines do not support or go for anything that, like that. They are leading people the wrong way. You guys, there is a higher power that is real, not for show and not for just to be written about in a book. God is very real. There's more than one God. There's not just the masculine energy, which we know is the God in the sky. There is also the Holy Spirit, the Holy Mother. And we know who she is. This is not anything new. We know who she is. She's referred to as Mother Mary. She's referred to as Some people think of this as Mary Magdalene, all kinds of, but there is a Holy Mother. So this is not new information here. It's not groundbreaking information. Some cultures have naturally embraced this information more than other cultures. But it's the truth. This is the truth of the real spirituality, not a placebo version that doesn't work. That's fake. This is the real version. Ancestors are extremely important. That's why old cultures always recognize, who are you the son of? Who are you the daughter of? Who are you who is your grandfather? Who are your forefathers? Even in America, they talk about forefathers because it's important, because you stand on the shoulders of people who came before you, who built before you. Ancestors are important. They are critical. Honoring where you came from, who you came from, is critical. It is important. So this is my message for today. I'm going to do another live at some point about how to pray, because I feel like that's something also that people may not know where to start. I've talked about in past, when you're starting with your ancestors, you don't need to pray formally. You talk to them because you know them. You just use your voice. That's it. You talk to your ancestors because you know them. For me, it's no secret. I've talked about it from day one. It's always been my grandmother that I have started with. A woman that I am in love with. I can't even say I love her. I am in love with her, in love with her spirit, in love with her energy. So for me, it's very easy to just talk to her, and just talk to her like I talk to any normal human being. And the more you reach out, the more you talk to them, the more consistently, the more you appeal to them, the more real it gets, the more they can be strong enough to be pulled into your world and you into theirs. And so you guys can communicate, you guys can connect. And then when you're done from there, you realize, well, oh, if I did it this way with my ancestors, then why can't I do that with God as well? My prayers with God are not necessarily very formal. There are different kinds of prayers for sure. So you're gonna have different kinds of prayers, but it's not always necessarily formal. I ask questions. I ask for advice. I just talk. You can joke around with God. God's not like this strict figure where it's like, you can definitely joke around with God. You can definitely to me, I almost find the more relaxed the relationship, even better. Just for me, could be different for other people, but for me, I like a very relaxed relationship with God. I enjoy that. I think God enjoys that as well. I think you have to look at your spiritual relationship in the way that you look at any relationship, more or less. Spirits just want to connect with you. That's part of being alive and being on this journey. This is not restricted. A spiritual journey is not restricted to just certain people who are special. They just want you to believe that. It's not restricted to people with spiritual gifts. They just want you to think that, so that they can have their ego inflated and feel like they're better than people. You can have a billion gifts, all the gifts in the world, and when you're under judgment, you're under judgment. All of them get snatched back. You get put under judgment. It gets publicly taken. You get publicly humiliated. You get tossed aside. You can have spiritual gifts and still be gang stalked and still be taken over by gang stalking. It's the prayer practice. It's the spirituality. That's what makes the difference for us. It's the spirituality. It's the connection with spirit. That's what brings us to that place of really being protected. Not leaning on yourself, not leaning on your own understanding. And it's really, helpful to have a holy book as well, holy scriptures to read. The religion doesn't matter to me, I don't think. But to have holy scriptures to read from and to get that guidance on how God wants people to move forward. That book is literal. This is the thing, that book is literal. This is not even like, well, metaphorically speaking and this and that. Sure, there's some metaphors in there, but I think it's literal. Because day by day, I keep realizing like it is literal. They're literally describing literal things that are happening. I think you get gang stalked and then you realize like, oh my God, it's happening. We're in the end of days. We're in the last days. These things are occurring. So above all else, everything is important here. Don't get me wrong. Everything is important. It is important to energetically walk away. It's important to be in a high vibration. It is important to meditate. It's important to clean your space. Important, very important. But prayer, the prayer life, the prayer practice, please put it on the top of the list. Please do. Without prayer, you find yourself in a lot of problems. I'm not saying all of the problems can be avoided, because you do have to walk that path. A lot of times you have to walk that particular path, but without the prayer, you find yourself enduring a lot more than you need to. You find that things that shouldn't have happened are able to happen because somebody else who can pray went into the spirit against you, and they went into the spirit consistently. You need to pray against your problems. Keep a prayer life. Keep yourself covered. Keep yourself blanketed in safety. Keep yourself cocooned in peace. You need to pray consistently, persistently, and you need to stay in prayer until your situation is done. And then your prayers can change, but I think you would have been in a prayer routine that you probably wouldn't want to come out of either way. Prayer is constantly being in contact with spirit, and that is a pleasure and that is a blessing, to constantly be in contact with energies that you love and that love you. We're talking about your ancestors, your higher self, your spirit guides, angels, the Most High. You might want to stay in connection with these energies just because you like to. For me, that's what it boils down to. Sometimes I go in for protection. Sometimes I go in to ask for something, but a lot of times it's just because I want to be there. I just want to be there. I just want to talk to them. I just want to make sure they know that I love them. You know, I care about how they feel in the way that they care about how I feel. It's a two-way relationship. This is a relationship that feels like a real human relationship, not necessarily a relationship between somebody praying and God. This is like when tarot readers say you'll find your soul family, that's my soul family to me. I don't think of like human beings. I feel like my soul. This is family to my soul. This is feeling very much supported all day long. Very much guided, protected, loved. This is the best feeling I've ever had in my life. In my entire life, I finally feel settled. Like the only thing, you know, when you finally find the love that you've always wanted in the way that you've always expected it or wanted it, the only thing you think of is, I wonder why this took so long. I wish this happened before. That's all I think about. I wish this happened before. I wish I met them before. But it happened the way that it happened, probably for good reason, right? Maybe I wasn't ready. I wasn't going to be open. Who knows? But if it takes gang stalking to get us here, then it is what it is, because this is going to be the most magical, beautiful experience of your life moving forward. And it's not to say that you're not going to have more chaos coming. Chaos is always going to be here. It's part of the journey. And again, it's how we evolve. But it's just the fact that despite the chaos that's coming, you're gonna find true peace and true happiness, and it's gonna be inside because they live inside of you. They live with you. They live literally physically with you as well. Physically with you, physically in your energy. So it's worth it. It's worth it to, first of all, you got to get out of here. So you need the spiritual help and the spiritual guidance. They want so desperately to help you. It may seem like things are blocked. They are so eager. They are so eager to see you happy. They are so eager to bless you, but these things need to be cleaned out first. I used to not like hearing that, but it's the truth. This energy around you, it needs to be cleaned out first. Gang stalking needs to be concluded and cleaned out. And then when it's safe, then you can proceed. But it needs to be cleaned out. So in order for it to be cleaned out, you got to take this walk. Yesterday I talked about what are you willing to offer spirit in assistance or in exchange. And you know, it's funny because a song came to me, and it's a gospel song. I think it's by Amy Grant. I finally remember. I couldn't remember who it was by. There was a song by Amy Grant that goes, "What can I give in exchange for your love?" I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna make sure. I want to make sure it is Amy Grant. My aunt used to play this song so much when I was younger. I think it's Amy Grant, because I was trying to Google the lyrics and couldn't find it. And she is a gospel singer. What is this song? This is gonna bother me. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where I'm hearing the song in my head. I don't know who sings this song, but anyway, um I don't want it to I don't want it to sound like I'm advocating like you have to give God something in exchange or whatever the case is or whatever. It's like it's a fine line. It's a fine line of how to explain this because, and I was thinking about it even this morning. I was thinking about the fact that you can literally look at, it's kind of like when you go to dinner somewhere or you go to someone's birthday or something, like you carry something, you know. It's kind of like that. It's like you don't have to, but if you want to keep the relationship, you should. If you care about them, if you respect them, you should. It's like that. It's like giving of yourself. And so it's like when you go to spirit and you have something in hand, a token of appreciation, it really develops your relationship with spirit because it's just a way, it's like how we teach our kids good manners. It's a way of sweetening up that relationship. So you don't, it's not like you have to. It's not like you, it's not like God is gonna turn, you know, his or her back on you just because. But it's also that, you know, when you talk about getting favor from God, it's like people who are appreciative, who are grateful, get favor in the spirit. It's natural because it's like the way that you approach. And I wanted to, even in my comment section, I even wanted to clarify what I meant by go in the spirit with something, with some sort of sacrifice. I remember early on in my relationship with God, I thought to myself, I hope God never wants like my, me to prove my love with my kids or something like that, because I would understand. I would understand how, that's the first thing I thought of yesterday. I understood how Moses felt, where it's like, I don't want to do it, but my love and my faith in God is so unshakable that God first, God always. That's something that I say, and I mean it. I really do. And I know that me going on this spiritual walk, me being on this journey in the way that I am, it means a lot to me how God feels. That's what I mean by a journey. It's like, this is a real consciousness. So you can't feel good by constantly receiving and not giving back. I mean, I know some people are capable of doing it, but at some point you got to say, how can I be of service? How can I give back? How can I assist? So, for me, I was like, people should know about you. It wasn't even about, in the beginning, I'm not gonna lie, I was very selfish about this. But it got to a point where I was like, people should know. And it first started when I was like, listen, if there's ever a day that I'm ever asked, how did you get out of this? This is what I'm gonna say. And people are gonna look at me like I'm crazy, but I'm gonna be honest. I'm not gonna say it was anything but exactly who and what it was, no matter how they look at me. And then it evolved from there to, what, people are suffering and I don't know what to tell them, but the truth. This is how I've been navigating the situation successfully, and perhaps that'll alienate a couple people from me, and I'd rather be alienated from them than to lie and to betray the energy that has helped me through. And then it turned into, you know what, if I have to spend the rest of my life talking about this, I'm okay with it. And I think it wasn't right away, it wasn't upfront, but eventually you do come into the spirit with something that you have that is of value, even though you think to yourself, well, what can I offer a spirit? What can I offer an energy that can give me anything that I want? I can offer love, I can offer devotion, but what would they value beyond that? These are not dark entities where they're like, oh, sacrifice this person and you'll get this. It's not how the right hand path works. It's a left hand path behavior. Entities will be like, sacrifice this person and I'll give you all of this. God does not work that way. Doesn't need to. You don't need to when you're on the side of creation. You don't need to sacrifice anyone. You don't need to do any of this at anybody's cost. That's the whole reason. And which doesn't make sense to me why people on a left-hand path are so obsessed with how people live their life, because it's like, you could have had this as well. You don't have to sacrifice anyone. You don't have to destroy anyone. You don't have to steal from anyone. And this life of devotion is not just because God just desires for you to live a restrictive, ultra disciplined life devoid of any enjoyment. It's for your safety, literally. It's literally for your safety. It's literally in your best interest for that to happen, for you to live that way. Every single time there was something that I thought, well, what is the reason God cares about this, or why does it matter, or whatever, it's because it's for your safety, in your best interest. And I've realized how those practices could lead to a person not living a happy, healthy life. So I'm not going to go too much more into this. I'm sure the messages are going to continue to evolve in this direction. Please start a prayer routine. Take it seriously. It will save you in your toughest moments, things that you're going through that are super easy to fix, to clean. I saw the other day somebody said that they had swollen feet, that their legs are starting to swell or whatever. Listen, that's an egg cleanse. That's a cleanse. That's it. Immediate relief. There's no reason to suffer like this. There's a million cleanses as well. Do some research. Invest in your spiritual journey. It will pay dividends. It will pay, it will pay, it will pay. Some people go through brutal spiritual battles to come back here with the information that they give for free, the information that people are selling, the information that people who initiate other people are selling, all the ingredients to the cleanses and all the different ways that you can take care of yourself. They're selling it. And people like us come here to give it for free because people are suffering, and that hurts God to see that. And people don't maybe believe that or think, but it hurts God to see people suffer. Anyway, let me do a spirit message card. These are cards that I consider to be messages from spirit. These are cards that I appreciate that they don't have any negative cards in the deck, because I don't believe that, I don't want to see any messages given to people. You know, tarot's like that. Tarot, you can get some negative messages in there. And I think that, ooh, okay, these are two amazing cards that are consistent with what I've been talking about. So the first one says, if you think you are alone, you are not, because you're really not. It took a lot for me to recognize that I've never been alone. If you think you are alone, you are not. We are beside you in all challenges that you face. Trust that outside sources will always be working with you to ensure the best outcome in every situation. We have your best interests at heart. We love you. Literally, this is how it feels taking a spiritual walk. You're not alone. You're supported. You're loved. You're encouraged. And that confidence lives inside of you. And the way you approach the world, people feel that energy on you, that relaxed energy, that peace. They feel it on you. Don't lose, and the second card that came out, don't lose sight of this truth. You came here to evolve and grow. It is necessary to experience the difficult times. That is when you will grow most. There is always light at the end of the tunnel. Be proud of your journey. I don't even need to elaborate on that. It's exactly what I've been saying. A lot of things that happen on your journey are things that have to happen. You have to go through them, and going through them will change you. There's parts of this journey that are incredibly painful for people. And I see them and I say to myself, my goodness, I know this is horrible for the person experiencing it, but these parts of this journey, they groom you. As amazing of a person as you are, it'll put you in a situation where you will realize that there's a greater growth that you can have, that there's more evolution that you can have, that there's more truth that you can come into. And I think that this makes you a stronger person to be able to move forward and talk to people. This card has wanted to come out so bad for the longest time. Let's see. So these are my crystal cards. And I believe crystals are, it's not, I believe crystals are widely held as cards are not cards, but crystals are widely held as being extremely healing. They are very healing for me. You know, I believe in them, especially through spiritual warfare, as a physical healer, physical cleansing. Like, I cannot overstate the importance of having crystals. I collect crystals, but I don't just collect crystals to have them because they're pretty. They are very pretty stones, but I actually use them. So I do read crystal cards and talk about, you know, what they do. But I got two cards today. First one is jade, the crystal of purification and serenity. I think most people know what jade looks like. And jade is the stone, the crystal of purification and serenity. It's for health and well-being. The vibration is high. Jade is a soapy stone found in two forms, jadeite and nephrite. Jade is a cleansing crystal, assisting the body's filtration and elimination organs and supporting the immune system. It has long been believed that jade detoxifies the kidneys and balances bodily fluids with the ratio of water to salt and acid to alkaline. Crystal healers use jade to rebind the cellular and skeletal systems. This crystal is traditionally used to assist fertility and childbirth. In the mind, it encourages self-sufficiency and heals trauma and past grief. I'll read that again. It encourages self-sufficiency and heals trauma and past grief. And in the spirit, it promotes peace and inspires insightful dreams. Jade. And the other one that has needed to come out for the longest, and I've been ignoring this card, it's called Rutilated Quartz, which is angel hair, and it's the crystal for vibrational healing. And this is what it looks like. It's a crystal with kind of like spines in it, so they call it angel hair. It's energy, it's a crystal for energy integration, and it's a perfect balance of cosmic light and grounded energy. It illuminates the soul, promoting spiritual growth. It draws off karmic dis-ease and reframes events still affecting the present. The crystal assists out-of-body journeying, scrying, and channeling, contacting spiritual guidance. Its rutile content draws off negative energy, releasing the past and cleansing the aura. Protecting against psychic attack and ideal for therapists or counselors, Rutilated Quartz filters negative energy from a client, supporting their energy field through emotional release and confrontationals with darker aspects of the psyche. On the body, it deals with impotence, infertility, respiratory tract, bronchitis, and cellular repair. And in the mind, it soothes bad moods, overcomes depression, fears, phobias, and anxiety. And this is angel hair crystal. And I think this is the crystal that needed to come off, even though I will put both crystals in the description box of this video. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you for hanging in there with me. And I know I did my live early today, but I just want to thank you guys anyway. And just remember that God loves you. Have a great day.